Okay, so what I was saying is that we would like to get this country up to snuff here. So in Europe, is that better? They do 3 times the amount of filler than Botox. Here in America, we do 3 times the amount of Botox and filler. So it's good. Botox is great. But I think that there's an opportunity that is definitely lacking here when it comes to filler. And where is aesthetics? Where are these numbers? So these are numbers from 2022, and you can see from 2019 to 2022, there was a 73% increase in neurotoxins. So again, Botox is on the rise, but that's pretty incredible for a drug that has been on the market for well over 20 years. That's just actually unheard of for any drug that has been around that long, so that's great news. And soft tissue HA fillers has also grown about 70% since 2019, which is very high. Now, what isn't in here is what's going on in 2023. And there's definitely a little dip in the trajectory of fillers this year. And I'm sure you guys have felt it. I have personally at Injectability Clinic. And so we want to kind of talk about that tonight and what are some of the things that we think might be causing that. I have my own ideas. I would love to hear from you guys if you want to put it in the question and answer box. But one of the things you may have heard of something called filler fatigue. And I think that's actually kind of a real thing. But what's causing it is the variable. But yeah, someone put in the chat box the recession or the question and answer box recession. I think that is true. I think there is a little economic dip. So I have been in this field of aesthetic medicine since 2001. I was working for a plastic surgeon in 2008 during that recession, and we definitely saw a decline in plastic surgeries, but we saw an increase in injectables. And I think what people were saying
unless they
is that
decided not to do it live,
patients
so
had an easier time spending money on things that cost a little bit less. So they were kind of foregoing the surgery to go to injectables. I think what's happening this year, as there is a little bit of an economic dip, is that patients are spending a lot more money on Botox, it seems, than fillers. In fact, they're more comfortable spending hundreds versus thousands right now. And I do think that is an economical thing. But I also think there's something else happening. Yeah, so someone put in there the fear of being overfilled. And I really, oh my gosh, yes, Kara, too, perception on social media of filler being overdone and not looking natural. That's exactly what I'm getting at. So I'm going to take this opportunity just to give you guys some encouragement that since I'm speaking to my colleagues, whatever you post on social media, you have to assume that patients are seeing it. Prospective patients for you, prospective patients for me. So I've had patients coming in telling me they're afraid of getting filler because they don't want migration. And I'm kind of shocked that they would even know that word because that's an internal word, really. I don't think patients know that word unless they're following other injectors. And so as injectors, when we put things online on social media, we have to be very cognizant of what we're putting on there because patients are seeing it, and it's beginning to create a little bit of a fear amongst them. And then you take that coupled with 1 or 2 celebrities that say they're getting all their fillers taken out, but they're not really showing the fact that they're getting them put back in again. So filler migration is a real thing. I do think we should talk to our patients about it. We should be aware of it. We should not overfill to get to that point, which just means overfilling mostly in the lips. It will spill out and go elsewhere. But I think that conversation needs to happen between the provider and the patient in the room under an informed consent type of situation, not necessarily online on social media platform. That's my personal opinion. I think that we need to be cognizant of that. Everything that we are posting is either pushing people away from filler or drawing them to filler. So what can we do to help our prospective patients be excited about what dermal enhancers and Juvederm can do for their face is we can change our education to be more positive for the patients, more positive, showing more before and afters with the real number of syringes or mils that it took to get that result. Another big problem is that people are showing these great before and afters, but they don't tell the patient how many syringes or mils it took to get there. And then the patients come in and they expect to get one and have that result. And so we need to be honest in our marketing. This took 4, this took 6, or whatever number that was, so they have that perspective. I think those are some of the things that is causing some of this filler fatigue. But just as a side note, that not every patient is coming in for Botox and fillers. So, but they are the same patient demographic. So let's say they're coming in for a skin treatment or skin resurfacing. We still want to make sure that we capture their attention as a potential injectable patient because it is the same patient demographic. So don't think, oh, I'm not going to hand them the paperwork for injectables because they're just here for a facial, when we can actually push towards cross-marketing with some of those materials that we have. So my favorite slide, and I'll probably spend most of the time on this slide actually, and less on the others, but I think it is important to know this because this is the number one reason that people struggle with consultations, is they feel bad. They don't want to push, they don't want to sound salesy, and they don't want to bring anything to a patient's attention if they don't know what it is that they have wrong with them already. So, and I get that. I completely understand that this is a sensitive topic, but I want to remind you that you didn't pull these patients off the street and say, let me come in and talk to you about why you need to have your face fixed. This is not the approach that we're taking. These people are coming to you, they're making an appointment because they really want to see what they can do to feel their best. And so Allergan took this to the next level, as Allergan tends to do, and they did a survey of patients who were prospective patients going into the office for an injectable treatment. And they asked them, do you want a comprehensive assessment while you're there? And 94% of those patients said they wanted a comprehensive consultation. So there's your answer right there. If you don't give it to them, you're pretty much going to be making 94% of those patients irritated that you just let them walk in and you're just going to go ahead and do it and you're not actually giving them a comprehensive consultation. And of those 94% that went in for a toxin treatment, they actually interviewed them as well and asked them if their provider brought up filler during that conversation. And only 24% of the time, the provider brought up filler. So that's a huge gap. 94% of them want it, and only 24% of providers are getting it. And I'm going to presume that most people on this call are going to be in that 24%, or you wouldn't really be here, because the people who aren't taking the time to do a comprehensive consultation, they probably think they're doing an okay job, but they're missing the boat with that. And then if you look at this action number, 82% of people who get a comprehensive consultation will take action. They'll actually do something. So that's what we call a conversion rate. And if you don't know what your conversion rate is for consultations, I really encourage you to start tracking that. See how you fall into. The national average is actually well below 70. In fact, I think it runs between 50 and 70, depending on where you read the stats. So 82% of people, once they have a comprehensive consultation, will get some sort of treatment. So that's a pretty good conversion rate. And then of those people, after a comprehensive consultation, they're going to decide to do that within 6 months. 85% of them are going to decide to do that within 6 months. So there's another stat that kind of leads to this as well that's not on here, but I'm going to tell you anyway because this is really important and a lot of people don't understand this. Allergan did some research through Alley, and they noted that if a patient doesn't do dermal filler within the first, I've got to make sure that I write this, 3 visits, so that's like basically the first 3 Botox appointments. If they don't get filler between those first 3 visits, the chances of them ever getting filler in their entire lifetime go down to less than 5%. So I hope that you heard that correctly. You must bring up dermal enhancers, dermal filler, Juvederm within the first 3 visits. And really, it makes sense to do it on the very first day because that's when you're going to be giving that comprehensive consultation. After that, it's okay to bring it up in the second one, maybe on that image review session when you meet with the patient after Botox. You say, I'm glad your upper face looks great. If you ever want to talk about maybe getting some anti-aging treatments in the lower face, we can do that. We can do that today. That really is a different modality. Oftentimes we use dermal enhancers or dermal fillers for this. and I'd be happy to talk to you about that. So at least bring it up, but it really does make sense to do it in that first session. Okay, let's go to the next slide here. And these are the areas that are actually on label. And I don't know if you know this, but 91% of millennials actually care about on label. That was actually really surprising to me, that 91% cared about that. So we want to make sure we talk about that in our marketing. This is an on-label, FDA-approved area if we're talking about the jawline or the chin or any of these things. But Allergan has made it so possible that 90% of the face is on label, FDA-approved. And here are all the indications for all the different portfolio. And what I want to talk about also on this slide is just a little plug for why I have chosen to really consolidate most of my business as a business owner to Allergan. This portfolio is going to be your most vast. It's going to have everything from as tiny as a skin V for a skin booster all the way to as thick and robust as a bone mimicker in Volupte. And everything in between. So really, if we think about where this country is headed, we're getting more and more fillers, just like Europe. I think there's well over 250 different types of fillers in Europe. And if you start bringing on every single one, you're never going to pay the best price for that. And it's going to be hard for you to make multiple syringes or multiple mils attainable for your patients because your cost of goods is so high. So you really need to think about consolidation earlier than later and trying to pick that company that supports you, that has a vast portfolio of pretty much everything that you need in it. Also, dual users. I wanted to mention this. Another statistic I'd love for you to start tracking in your offices is what % of your patients do both Botox and fillers. So we call those dual users. Nationally, it's about 24%, which is fairly low in the scheme of things. We know that patients spend 3.6% more or times more in average if they do use both a dermal filler, Juvederm, and also Botox. And they're more than 70% more likely to stay loyal to your practice when those same toxins and fillers are in the same company. So, and we attribute that a lot to the loyalty programs, but also just that trust and confidence in the company that they're using in the same brand. So more loyal, and they're going to spend a little bit more if we can get them to get on both sides of those drugs. So someone's asking if we can get a copy of this slide. I don't think so, but you might want to switch to the speaker view or the deck view so you can get a little bit larger print on that as well. It's basically just all the areas that are approved and what products are approved for those. All right, and then these are our safety slides that of course we have to have in there, and we cover all Botox, Juvederm, and Skin V. So let's talk about the journey process now. Most offices, and I can say this with pretty good confidence, I do a lot of training. I've actually done this consultation deck 12 times in the last 2 weeks. So I have met with a lot of providers who have told me their struggles. Typically, most providers are wanting more time with their patients. Unfortunately, a lot of business owners are afraid to offer more time because they're afraid that they're not going to get that money back, that this is something that I don't get paid for a consult, so therefore you're going to have only 15 minutes to do it. Well, can you think of the last time you spent thousands of dollars on something with 15 minutes to make that decision? It's just not going to happen. I always love to give this analogy, and I apologize if you've been to one of my dinners and you've heard it before, but I think it really resonates. If you ever were to make a purchase, like a purse or something that was just something that over the top what you would normally do, a couple $1,000s, and you walked into that store and the sales lady said, "Oh my gosh, I have the best purse for you. You were going to love it." And you say, "Oh great, let me see it." And she says, "No, it's behind a door. You can't have it. I'm so sorry, you can't see it beforehand. But I know you're going to love it, so you've got to just trust me. I just need your credit card, and we, by the way, we don't take any returns." There's no way anyone would make that decision in that amount of time. It just wouldn't happen. And that's what we ask our patients to do every single day. When we do a consult that's rushed, that's quick, 15 minutes, of course when you present a beauty plan that's $3,000 and you try to rush that in 15 minutes and you're not using any photography or any before and after images to kind of gain their trust and show them what it is they're purchasing, they're trusting you to put that in their face, and that's a lot of trust, honestly. And it's just no wonder we can't get them to the next level of where they need to be because we're not spending enough time. So try to remember that next time you go to do a consult, is that if you just increase your time, I think you'd be surprised at how many people would be very, very interested in the outcome, because that's what we're selling. We're selling outcomes. And the next slide, we're just going to be preparing for that patient journey. So we're going to talk about all of these things at length, so I'm going to just skip through that real quick. The cosmetic interest questionnaire, this is something I wanted to touch on for a bit because this is available to you guys very, very easily. You can get it from your BDM, and you can also get it from BrandBox. So this is the patient interest questionnaire. I have it here, and I'm going to have my patient today to fill it out. But it looks like this, and you guys have it, see it on the screen. Basically, it covers all the on-label areas because that's what Allergan does. It does on-label. So it covers all of those. And on the back, in the gray section, which you can see there, and I'm going to go over this at length with the model here today, but on the gray section, it covers some of the emotional needs. What are the patient's goals for getting treatment today? And I'm going to hold up mine, so hopefully you guys can see this, because I do want you to think about maybe getting your own version with your own patients. So a little bit more thorough. I don't know if you guys can see this. Oh, up here, are we using this camera? Okay. All right, here we go. So this is kind of what, we have everything on there, and every patient fills this out right here. So I would encourage you to do your own. These are our own patients. We did a before and an after, and instead of just the before on there. But either way, at least you have it available to you instantly, so that you can use that tomorrow. You can ask your BDM to get that. You can download it from BrandBox. It's really helpful, and I'm going to use the Allergan version tonight with my model so you can see how that's used. So you'll be able to understand how that works. Okay, so let's go to the next one. But this is something you want to actually do every single time your patient comes in. Well, the very first time for sure, and then at every time they want to continue to improve. So if there's like a milestone birthday, or at our office we do this on the yearly. So when they have their year anniversary, we have them refill out the cosmetic interest questionnaire, and that is just a way to start conversation, and it really helps that way. So I'm just going to cover this question. Someone asked if it was 91% do not care. It's actually 91% of millennials do care about FDA approval or on-label. So I think we should start using that in our marketing, actually, in my opinion. But hopefully you guys are using something like this cosmetic interest questionnaire, because I think that this is definitely spurring on conversation. You'll see how it works with my patient today. The next step, we're going to take some imaging, and here is this is a really hot topic for me. I showed you my imaging room. At our office, we call it images, imaging room. It's time for your images. Oh, you're due for images today. I think using that phrasing really helps our patients to understand that these aren't just kind of a quick before and after photo on our phone, that this is actually diagnostic for us. And that really helps to kind of combat them saying, I don't want my pictures today. And then we just say, oh, it's diagnostic for the injectors. We need to get your images today. You're due. A couple of really important things. Make sure your lighting and position is good. You have the same background, multiple views. If you have the option for a ghost image, that's really key. So you want to make sure that that is done, because just a couple millimeters on the chin really makes a difference on like the way the neck and the jawline looks, especially now that we're doing a lot of jawline work. We want the hair off the face, a headband on, everything that we can possibly do to make this consistent and look really great for potential use, obviously, but also for when we're reviewing it with our patients. And you can see I have my model pictures up on the wall behind me. She is a current patient. We're going to talk to her today as if she's new, But if she was an existing patient and she came back for Botox but had filler 2 or 3 months ago, I would definitely have pulled up her before the filler picture and then the picture that we took today when she's getting ready for her Botox, so that we can compare those results and see how that looks, and maybe just, give her encouragement that that was a really good investment, and review those images with her. So before you go in with a patient, you want to make sure that you are reviewing these things. So this is something that does take a little bit of time. We want to go through their chart, see when their last visit was. What are they due for? I don't know if you guys do this, but I do. I kind of keep a little sticky note on the patient's chart of what's coming up, what are they due for. We also have little calendaring stuff that we write up for the patient that kind of says what is due for certain months. So obviously Botox is like every 3 to 4 months. But then we have like lip filler and jawline and kind of different mid-face, and we have that kind of calendared out for the year and the next couple of years actually with fillers. So I like to review that before so I know where they're at on that continuum. So every time they come in, I'm sort of reviewing that. Yes, the questionnaire is available on Allergan. You can get that on Brown Box. That's available, the patient interest questionnaire. I do recommend some specific imaging equipment, but I have no financial ties to them. Allergan doesn't own one, so this is definitely off-label, if you will. But we use Photo Finder, which is with an FOTO finder, and I think you saw that room when we walked you through at the beginning, and I showed you how that it comes with the stand, comes with everything, and that actually links with all of our iPads in every single room. So, like, if I was to see her, I could pull up her pictures from the last time and kind of easily put them up here. I could actually do that right now. So we have her visit from, let's see, April 2023, and then I can pull up March 2024, so we can see how she compares to that. And I can pull them both up. And then it would mirror in here on the big screen, and then I can zoom in and kind of show the patient, what changed. These are actually both the same day, but I can show the patient what changes, how did that investment look on her, and wasn't that a great investment, worthwhile? Let's think about doing it again in a couple of years. So I do recommend that you use the images not just for the first day, which we're going to do today, but also for continuing to kind of look at those and see how that investment is, because it's really about their investment. They did spend the money on doing that. Oh, here's my calendar. I just found it right here. Remember I was saying we have this little calendaring thing? So we have a little program. If they get 3 Botox in a year, and we stamp it, and we keep this in their chart in case they lose it. But if they get 3 in a year, they get a free Diamond Glow at the end of the year. So it's an incentive to do 3 times a year. But we also will write on here when they're due. When are they due for lips? When are they due for temples? Off-label. No, not on-label. When are they due for jawline and their skin bead now? Because that's done like every 3 Botox treatments, every 2 to 3 Botox treatments. We can pop that in there as well. And it kind of helps them. We usually put in the cost down there too, so it helps them budget as well. All right. The questionnaire you can find, the patient interest questionnaire, is in Brand Box. You can find it there. Okay, let's go through this rest of this here. This is the credentialing slide, and here I just wanted to remind you that this is medicine. It's a fun kind of medicine. It's a different kind of medicine. It's aesthetic medicine, but it's medicine nonetheless. And I think this is one of the big mistakes that we can easily change in our practice and in our field is that we can present ourselves as medical professionals. So does that mean you wear scrubs every day? Great if you want to wear scrubs. That's amazing. I would say level up. Make sure you put your title on the scrubs, because the amount of offices I go in that just have scrubs but no name, no title. I don't know who's the doctor, who's the nurse, who is the front office person, who's going to be taking my pictures. So I would say make sure the very least you have your name and title. It's really lovely if you have the practice logo on the other side, because that just shows belonging and that you've been there for a while and that they invest in you as well. I am actually partial to a lab coat. Some may know I love my lab coats. I do think this is why the girl in the picture has a lab coat on, and this is why if you watch any pharmaceutical commercial on in the middle of the day, whenever you're watching TV, if that ever happens, you will see the professional in that pharmaceutical commercial in a lab coat, because we know that patients see that as trust, it's credentialing, it's believable, and they are more likely to make a decision if someone is trying to talk to them about that who's wearing a lab coat. So just a little push for that. Medicalization in aesthetics is something that definitely needs to happen, including on our social media. I'm going to bring it up. You have to maintain that professionalism online as well, because people need to see you 7 times before they'll believe that you're the right one for them. So you want all of those 7 touch points, Instagram, website, through a friend, however they're looking for that, YouTube, Yelp. You want all of those possible touch points to be that same brand, that same professional brand. So I would say try to really think about that when you're putting out your posts. This is the time to actually talk about your brand, your clinic, and use terminology like, well, for us at Injectability, we do things really different. We actually love to offer a comprehensive consultation. We like to be thorough and diagnostic with our exams when we talk to you. So plan on being here a little bit longer. And this is, whoever's on the phone telling that patient to plan on being at the office a little bit longer for your visit here at Injectability, because we do things a little bit more thorough than some of our other offices around here. And then the images, we use them diagnostically, and that's a credentialing statement. So if someone's complaining about taking those images, letting them know that our injectors actually use them. I have their pictures up while I'm injecting them. The big screen, I have them up because I can see, what side is a little flatter than the other. I have that view, so that's something that we do. This conversation, generally the patients come in and they want to know, what do you charge for a syringe? We need to change that conversation to more outcome-based. We charge X amount. It's okay to tell them. I don't try to keep it a secret, but we always say things, we do things really differently here. We have a lot of great package pricing for you. So our range is between X and X, because honestly, our prices vary depending on how many they get. So it's a big variable. But also just kind of figure out what it is that you're actually here for, instead of just assuming that they're there for Botox or whatever it is you see on the schedule. Explore that a little bit more. Figure out what it is that they're looking for. What are some of their goals? Because it's not really about that wrinkle. It's about more confidence. It's about looking younger. There's so much more than just how many units of Botox am I going to need for this one particular wrinkle. And then the consultation, and you're going to see me do this, we're going to be redirecting a lot with this model that comes in. She may come in for frown lines. She may come in for these nasal lips. She won't say nasal lips. She'll say these smile lines. But we're going to explain to her, what is the aging process? How did you actually get those? And here at Injectability, we like to treat the cause, not necessarily the symptom. We find it's much more economical for you to go that direction. So that's how I would answer that. It's not a sales pitch. It's really more about just being more comprehensive. Okay. When you look at your patient, if we go back to this one, the art of assessment is kind of a standard slide for Allergan, but you want to make sure that you watch them in animation. A lot of that happens during the interaction between the patient, but I like to get those images in animation as well and put them up on the TV. So even if someone's coming for filler, we get baselines for Botox as well, because those are going to be in animation. I do like to get a little video as well, to see how the fillers move with their face in the actor, and it's always very natural. It moves with the face. It integrates in very well. But you want to get images of the patient in animation, and not just at level set. So especially if you're doing a lot of jawline work, which hopefully you are with the Lux, we want to actually get them in a tilt. So get those pictures, get the images that you're taking, the befores, in a tilt view on that side profile. I can actually put up my patients here, I think, and you'll see we did get it in the side tilt, because every patient, like on the left, every patient takes that side picture. They almost put their chin up because they don't want to see their neck. And so we always tell them, put the chin down, let's get it at level set, but then we want it actually in a tilt version too, so we can kind of see how that jawline helps lift the laxity in the neck. Okay. Pam, hi. Pamela asked if they keep the calendar. We'd love for them to keep the calendar, put it on their fridge. You know, this is what I imagine they do with it. They probably throw it in their purse and forget about it. But we scan it first and put it in their chart. But it is kind of fun because we have these cute stamps and they get stamped 3 times. So they do keep them, but we do have a copy of it. Okay, so this is just, you know, kind of how we age, and you guys know this. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but what I wanted to remind you with these pictures is when you're talking to patients, you really want to use patient-centric terminology, words that move, words that motivate, that move them to change behavior. And the words I'm talking about are jowls, laxity, saggy, in a nice way, wavy jawline. You're going to hear me use these words today with my patient. It does not sound bad. It's something we all struggle with. So I normalize it by some of the pictures, and you'll see me do that. But I think the more you use these words, the more they get in touch with the fact that those are the things that they are seeing, and they do want to treat it. Okay. On this picture, what I love to do is you really can see kind of that nasal jugal groove right here. I love to have patients feel for that. So it's a tactile tool while they're sitting there. I'm showing them the fat pads on the wall, which I'll show you in a minute, but I'm having them take their finger and just drag it down that nasal jugal groove, and they'll feel that notch, and they're going to start kind of palpating their face during the day. Then they're going to do it after the treatment, and they shouldn't feel that groove anymore, and they're going to do it as that treatment wears off in the next couple years. That might be their first indicator that it's time to get back to you. So have them sort of feel for some of these. Even like on this patient, you see that older one, you see that OG curve here, but it goes in pretty significant right here. And then it comes out again as her jowl starts. So have them kind of feel, oh, that corner is going down. So if they start feeling it with their hands, it's just another way for them to get in touch with what's going on in their face. Okay, patient journey. We're moving through this. You definitely want to partner with the patient. You'll see I'm going to sit next to her. People believe you spend 257% more time when you sit next to them and when you face them. Definitely start with a complimentary feature. I'm going to do this today. That makes them feel more comfortable. We're not here to tear these women down. They should feel better about themselves when they leave, even if we don't do treatment. Just by picking out some of their beautiful features and talking to them about it, getting them comfortable with that. Using patient-centric language as well, visual aids. We're going to go over all of these. They may come in for the folds, but we really need to show them what is causing those folds. Yes, I will definitely show you the photo room again if you missed it. When you present your comprehensive consultations, I put up another great tool you can also find in Brand Box. This is a personalized consultation form. So you can kind of write things up. What I love about this is it shows all the FDA-approved areas here and the products that are FDA-approved. So you can also get this on Brand Box. But it actually has a little calendar on the back, so you don't need to make a cute little one. If you don't want, you can have it for free off of Brand Box with your BDM. So this could be their little pamphlet that you send with them. And I do like to kind of put it in a folder with a card and send them home with it. That is if they don't do the treatment, which in our office, 90% of the people do the treatment on the same day as the consult. So I'm hoping we get this stuff done that day. But if not, we send it home with them because we want them to kind of look at it and plan for that budget. But this is a great tool for you to use during their visit. All right, and again, letting them know that you do a comprehensive consultation. If they say, oh, I just came in for Botox, that's okay. We're definitely going to get to the Botox, but let's just kind of start with some of the things that you're seeing about yourself, and we'll go to some of those emotional key factors. I love this because this is where we're using kind of terminology that the patients are really resonating with them. So instead of saying, I could put a syringe of Juviter and Voluma in your mid-face and some velour here in these smile lines, that means really nothing to them. But if you talk to them about how they're aging and how those fat pads are separating, and instead of really treating the folds, we could actually prop up the face, that's actually more exciting, and they don't really need to know what product necessarily. That's sort of over-the-top information. You're the one who decides those things in the end. So just really changing your language to meet the goals of what they're needing and make it more educational. And that's the thing that I think we miss out. We sort of think that this is like a sales pitch, but really it's just an educational time. It's time to educate them on everything, and that's what I'm going to give you some tools to use. So just as a reminder, this is called the personalized consultation form, and you can also get this from your Allergan rep. Personalized consultation form. I also wanted to discuss a couple of things on this, and that is multiple mills. So what we need to realize is that we can make an impact in one area with one mill, and that really kind of only works for like the lips. That's sort of the only area on the entire face one mill can make an impact. When you start moving to multiple areas and they're concerned about jowls or cheek fullness, if you try to do that with one mill, it's really not going to be a great thing for you. In fact, you'll find that they're going to be disappointed. They'll probably come back and complain that they don't see any difference, and they really don't, because one can't really do much unless it's isolated to a small area. And that's the thing. The average number of mills per treatment per patient in this country right now is only 1.6. Well, 10 years ago, when we only had one area of indication or two areas of indication, it was 1.3. So we really haven't moved at all in 10 years. But now we have 90% of the face on label. So we have more real estate. It's so reasonable that we would be adding more mills or more syringes. So I just think it's important that we start reframing our pricing to kind of reflect that, so that we're not selling syringes, we're not selling milliliters, we are selling an outcome. So if you can, work with your business owner and try to come up with something called a procedure value per hour. So you're looking at really what is the bottom line I can actually offer this cost for and still be profitable here. And if you think about it, that first syringe that you do, that first mill, it takes 30 to 45 minutes to do. And then every syringe thereafter, every mill, is only 8 to 9 minutes. So it doesn't make sense that we have the same markup for the first few that we do those subsequent ones, that we just need another one to kind of make that final impact. So for us, it's a 4 syringe package that we start discounting in a way, and I'll show you how we do that with the model. It's more of a rebate that we call it. But that's kind of the idea, is that we don't really sell syringes here in aesthetics, and that's the problem. Sometimes when people do, it's this much for one, and then you get $50 off the second and $75 off the third, you're training your patients to buy syringes, not outcomes. So I really want to kind of fix this and not think of syringes. And if a patient says, I have to go home and think about this, or, that's more than I want to spend, it's really not about that. That's kind of like their gambling budget. They came in and they tell you, I want to spend $500 or $1,000. That's the amount that they feel comfortable losing, because they either haven't seen any effect prior, or they're afraid that they're not going to see an effect. And so let's start small. I'm going to be conservative here and start small. Sometimes that's the worst thing you can do, because they're never going to come back because they didn't see anything with small. So they think that fillers don't work for them. And I hear this a lot. So I just want to encourage you, if you think they need a certain number of syringes or mills, you tell them what that number is, and you let them decide if they're comfortable investing in that outcome. Okay. Now, we have some ways to overcome these barriers. So if they are afraid of looking overdone or unnatural, and that is really happening, you must show them what multiple mills looks like. And we have ways to do that. I have this journey book, and we're going to do this with our patient for sure. But you have to show them what 11.7 mills looks like. It looks pretty good. She doesn't look overdone. So you have to have these. I suggest that you have them of your own patients, but just in case you don't have those, you have them ready access for you. You can get these from your BDMs, and we can show you what multiple mills look like to kind of take that fear away. You can also show them with your fingers. So if we did 2 syringes or 2 mills, you'll get this result. And if we did 4, we could actually get a little more like this. And if we had a little bit more, we could do this. And we're showing them in the mirror what that looks like. So those are things that they're most concerned about. It's really not so much money. So these are the top 3 reasons why patients don't take that plunge. They're also, some of them are afraid that this isn't going to be a good investment. So you definitely want to share how long these products are lasting, because that is that value. They're looking for that value. And then you want to make sure that they know they're safe too. It's including neurotoxins on this slide. So I just want to point out some patients are still really afraid of Botox. It's surprising for me after all these years, but there are a few patients that are still pretty nervous about putting in a toxin. So share with them, this is the most studied neurotoxin in the world. We've been using it for almost 30 years, and kind of all those stats that you know about Botox and its safety. Okay, this is really just considering that value. It is not for just that one appointment. This is going to be over time with the duration effect. Again, they just want to know this is worth their money. Is this going to be valuable? And until you can prove that to them, you really have to sell it ahead of time with the before and afters. Another thing I wanted to talk about too is your packages may only, like for us, we start at 4, but I wanted you to start thinking about zone pricing, so you're pairing areas together that make sense to go together. So the few that I thought of would be like lips and chin, or lips and commissures. That would be a package of 2. And what could you do for them if they did those 2 versus just 1, and then coming back the second visit and doing another one, and then coming back the second visit and doing another one? And the reason that doesn't work is like those other visits that you're seeing them in are 2 other patients you can't see. So if you can consolidate that into 1 visit, make it more economical for them because you're saving time on the other end. Chin and jaw is one of them, and of course we never really do the mid-face or the tear troughs without doing the mid-face too. So think about some of these zones that make sense to pair together. Okay, let's see. On this particular slide, I was going to say that the Allergan did another survey of the top producing accounts in the country, and they looked for like secret sauce, and they had a few things. 78% of these people discussed on-label dosing in the consult. So make sure you discuss FDA-approved dosing, because when you write that prescription for a dose that sounds high to them, they've already kind of heard that this is an FDA-approved dose, so it shouldn't be too off the mark. 82% of these clinicians that they surveyed offered multiple options in their consult. So we always want to start with the best option, like the art of the possible, right? And it might be 6, 7, 8 syringes, whatever that is, whatever you think they need for their goals. And if they can't afford that, or it's outside their budget, then you come up with option 2 and 3. That might be a little bit more easy for them to digest in smaller bites. Always discuss the next treatment and schedule that next treatment in the room before they leave. And I do encourage you to do it in the room, in the injector's room, because it is a lot harder for your patients to say no to you as the injector in that white coat, in the scrubs, than the person up front that's like, oh, do you want to schedule your next appointment? And they're like, I'll call you later with it. But if you do it in the room, that is really more of they're just a little bit more tied to you as the injector. And then the last thing was that these successful business owners that they surveyed offered treatment payment options. So I won't tell you too much, but I would encourage you to start partnering with a company called Cherry, if you're not already, just to kind of get your foot in the door with this financing company, because there is word on the street that Allie is actually going to be pairing with Cherry. They are already for a couple people who are piloting it. And so you will be able to actually do payment plans through their Allie app. So definitely get on board with that earlier than later. I know it will be available for the rest of the country, probably in Q3 is what we're hearing, but it's been kind of all over the map on how that goes. But there's pretty exciting, and the benefits to the patient and the practice are actually phenomenal. So think about that, but get used to talking to your patients about payment plans. I try not to use the word financing. I think that's kind of scary, and it sounds like we're buying a car. But payment plans, or AliPay, or Cherry Pay, whatever that word is, I think that's patients are used to doing payments on things, from everything from Amazon to whatever. So that was definitely something that one of the successful practices put into their plan. So key takeaways, you definitely are educating this entire time, the whole time. You're educating, you're not selling. This is about talking to the patient about aging and goals and what are their needs. How do we need to get them to the place that they want to be? Okay. So the patient's first priority may be Botox, right? They might come in. We know that that's kind of a gateway drug. We know we need to get them on that already pretty quickly to the filler. But let's talk about why you don't like that. One of my favorite consults I sat in was someone who came in for Botox for the crow's feet. And I was actually training someone on consult, and she kind of said, oh, this is an easy consult, it's just Botox. And I said, no, this is the one I want to be in on because I bet you this patient could be a better filler patient, or both. And so she was worried about her crow's feet, and I kept asking her why. Why don't you like those lines? And she said, well, they make me look old. I go, well, is it the lines that are making you look old, or is it kind of like overall? She had really deep set hollows. And so I really explored it a little bit more, and it was her hollows that were bothering her, not the crow's feet at all. So then we actually converted the entire consult to more of a mid-face structural consult, and we converted her from Botox to filler. Not that that's always the goal, but you can always add the Botox on afterwards for those little lines. But really her need was more of that deep set infraorbital hollow. Then make sure you talk to the patients. What are your goals? And how can your staff help you? What can they do? Well, a lot. We actually have a ton of ancillary staff that does a lot of things. And some of the things that we definitely want to talk about here on this side is scheduling the next treatment. We already mentioned that. Making sure they're enrolled in ALI. And you can actually listen through ALI data, what percentage of your patients are enrolled in ALI, because they will send them reminders. You're going to send them reminders, but ALI will also. And so we find that patients just forget. Like, I know when my patients aren't really regular, even with the little 3 times a year thing, I ask them and they just say, I don't know, just time flies so I forgot. So whatever we can do to make those touch points, we can call them with expiring points, like, hey, I realize it's been this long, your points are going to expire, why don't you come in, miss you, that type of thing. But one thing I really wanted to talk about here is follow-ups. I think that's another big thing that's lacking in this field is, again, business owners don't see this as a revenue generator, so they kind of put it on the back burner. But really, you have to understand that lifetime value of the patient is what really counts in the end. And patients who don't have follow-ups, who can't see what they paid for, because by the time they come back, the Botox is already gone, or maybe their filler is, they just don't really even see it because it was so naturally done, because that's what they asked for, and they never got a chance to review those images with you, they won't see that value, and they won't come back. And so the lifetime value of that patient gets paid for in that follow-up image review. So for Botox patients, you want to see them back at 2 weeks. You can offer an incentive. Our office, new patients pay $1 less a unit, and then when they come in for their image review session at 2 weeks, that locks them into $11 as well for the second time. And we know patients that come to your office 2 times in a row, I think, what is the number? They're more likely to be loyal. What percent? What is it? It's like 40%. Yeah, 46% more loyal to your practice if they come 2 times in a row. Well, if they come for the Botox, they come for their images, then they come for the image review and their second Botox, because then they're locked into that same price. That's 3 times in a row. So they're pretty much going to be loyal to your practice. So whatever you have to do. For filler patients, about 4 weeks is ideal for new patients to get in, get those images, go over them. It's kind of that great reveal. Like, let's look at your purchase, and think of that purse again. Every time you put it on, you want to look at it. When you get fillers in your face, you sort of forget what you looked like before. And if you never get that opportunity to compare those images with your injector, you might miss out on a lot. Patients that did pre-book at checkout increase that retention by almost 50% as well. So you want to make sure you pre-book. Okay. I think I covered most everything I wanted to cover on consults. We're going to do a lot of that with the patient, but I want to just cover a little bit of rheology, or really about the products. We're gonna fly through this, but my main thing, why I think weekly adductibility are pretty successful with multiple mills. And maybe you've noticed I'm trying not to use the word syringe. Syringe is not a unit of measurement. It's a device. You could have a 30 mil syringe, you could have a 5 mil syringe, 10 mil syringe, and it sounds really huge to a patient. So I really like to not even use the word syringe anymore and just move to mils if I need to think of an amount, but even just outcome-based. So just talking to patients about what we're treating. But the reason it is such a success here is multiple. We give our injectors enough time to do the consult. We have that marketing portal out in the front that I showed you with the videos, all of those things. We educate, we wear the lab coats, we use the pictures. I mean, there's so much that I think contribute to it, but honestly, I could never sell the packages of $4,000 or $5,000 that I do, or even $2,000, if I didn't tell the patient the duration of the product. And if the duration of the product isn't more than 12 months, it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, that's a lot of money to spend on just a year. So that's kind of why I really, really love these products and why I love so much the Vicross as well. I'm going to get to that slide in a second right here. This is the one I want to get to. Allergan has 90% of the face on label. They have all of these products from, again, Skin Vive all the way up to Volux, and they all do different things. I can choose the right product for the right patient. When I go through the consults, I don't necessarily go over what product I'm using where. It's kind of irrelevant as a medical professional. That's my decision to make. It's not really theirs. They can make requests. If they loved Ultra in their lips last time, we'll do Ultra again. That's great. But if they want a little something softer, we'll go to Volbella. So they definitely have impact or decision-making power, but I'm going to most often choose the longest-lasting product for them because I think that is the most economical product, or best economical decision we can make. So when we look at these products, I'm going to go over each one, and they all have different consistencies, elasticity, cohesivity, all of those great things, and we can go over those in a different type of training. But what I wanted to talk about is duration here on this slide. So as you know, Volux was FDA approved this year or last year, but it has a 1-year indication, which is a little bit tricky because it's so weird. Over in Canada, it's 2 years, so nothing really magical happens between the U.S. and Canada. It's just that they push their study out a little bit longer. But Voluma has a wonderful 2-year indication, so it lasts 100% longer than some of the other HAs in this class, and really only a 45% increase in price. And in our practice, because of that consolidation that I talked about earlier, the price is pretty similar to some of the competitors for that area, and it lasts 100% longer. So it's kind of a no-brainer to choose that product because they get twice the duration. But pretty much all the Vicross, at the end of the study, every single one of those products had anywhere between 70 and 80% satisfaction on the patients in the study. So we can deduce from that as clinicians that perhaps the duration is longer than the study because Allergan will just kind of stop the study, get the product to market. But 70-80% of all of those products in the Vicross line had a satisfaction rate at the end of the FDA study. So that is, again, something that we can share with our patients and kind of sell that duration. We know that 84% of patients said they'd be more willing to pay more dollars for a product that lasted longer. So we know they're interested in duration, and that's kind of why I choose the Vicross for that. And Juvederm has a 47% market share globally of all the products in the world. They almost have 50%. So there's got to be something to those products that make them superior and premium. And that's what I tell my patients when I'm doing my consult, is these are the products we're choosing for you because they are the best ones for you. They last the longest. They give the best effects. They have the best lift capacity, the best cohesivity. They integrate the best, all of those things. So don't forget to use that in your consults because, again, patients care about FDA approval, but they also care about what products are going into them. They're also reversible if need be. If we need to take them out, they're reversible. This next slide is talking about how that product, such as Voluma, can actually lift and contour in cheeks and in chin where it's FDA approved. But I wanted to remind you also that these products are FDA approved for the subcutaneous area as well, not just supraperiosteal. So in my opinion, in my hands, I really like Voluma in the sub-Q with the cannula. I think it adds to skin quality effects. Hyaluronic acids are biostimulators, so we can know that when we're in that depth where we're actually able to hit some fibroblasts, we can stimulate some collagen as well. And so I really love it there. So don't forget that you can actually put it there as well with your cannula. Yeah, Jessica, great question. How do you address risks and complications during the consult? So I do go over that when I'm going over informed consent, and everything is in our informed consent. And as a provider, I'm sitting next to that patient, going over the informed consent and making sure that I discuss the highest possible risks at length, and even some of the ones that are a little bit more obscure. We do go over them, and I do believe that should happen right here in the office, not necessarily online. So back to superficial, you get a higher surface volume coefficient. In fact, studies show as high as almost 70% higher surface volume coefficient, which just means more efficacy or more bang for your buck in the superficial plane. So here is comparing Volux and Voluma, and you can see Volux stands up a lot prouder even than Voluma, whom we've known and loved. It can stand a little bit higher and prouder, and that's why it works so well for the jawline. It has that really nice projection, linear, and it really mimics bone nicely. All right, and so Volbella here for subtle, go back to that one, soft, subtle volume in the lip and lipstick lines, and you can see it is very low on the G prime, very, very low on water affinity, which is nice. Okay, and a natural look that lasts. Another thing I like to point out too with these fillers is that they do integrate very well into the tissue. I've been using Allergan products, well, since they came out, which 2006, I think, I have it down on one of my slides. And I have always kind of put them in the sub-Q, and they really, really work well with the patient's tissue as they're animating. So that's another one of the kind of the fears that people get with fillers, is that they're going to look unnatural when they move. You always want to watch that while you're injecting. Okay, and then we have two lip options, and you guys know this. You've got Ultra and Volbella, and I love questioning the patients when I show them before and afters, and I'll have them kind of pick, which product do you like, which lips do you like, and I'll show them a bunch of lips, and I'll have them kind of pick, and that gives me an idea as to which product I'm going to use. I don't ask them, do you want to use Volbella or Ultra? Because most of them don't even know what those are. You're the expert, so I'll say, you know, here's a lip that we did. Do you like this, or would you actually prefer a little bit more volume like this? And I kind of get their opinion, and I'm using before and after books, and I have one right here. I don't have my, oh, I do. Here's my lip book here, so I'll kind of point out different lips and, you know, ask them, like, this is a Volbella lip, and I'll ask them, do you like that, or do you want a little bit more fullness here, and that's going to be an Ultra lip, and I'm just kind of flip through these and show them the differences, see what if this is too subtle for them, then we're going to go to Ultra, or we're going to do two Volbellas, or combine Ultra and Volbella. So again, using these props to kind of help your patients decide what they want to do. All right, and again, the consistency of Ultra is going to be a little bit more like peanut butter. When it comes to Volbella, it's going to be a little more like honey, very, very thin. Okay, and picking what is right for that patient. All right, just as a recap, number one, chosen dermal filler collection worldwide with over 100 million syringes sold worldwide. Number one requested, most brand recognition, just like Botox. Juvederm has the most brand recognition. And Botox safety information as well, more studied. All right, I think I am ready for Katie to come back, and she might be here. Get rid of these papers.
All right, so we're going to let Leslie go ahead and get her beautiful model ready for the live assessment and consultation. You will see a QR code on your screen. We do ask that if you could please take a picture of it. We would love to hear your feedback. If you're not able to capture the survey now, don't worry, we'll email it out to you. But we just want to say thank you so much. And Leslie, are you ready?
I am. Okay, hi Judy, my name is Leslie, one of the nurse practitioners here at Injectability. Thanks for coming in.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Who told you about our practice?
Well, I've had several people that have told me about it, and I was at church commenting on how nice somebody looked, and they told me that was thanks to you.
Oh, and so that's who you called. When you talked to this gal who had some stuff done, what were some of the things about her face that you thought looked great?
I think the the smoothness and the, it wasn't that it was so dramatic that it looked phony. It just looked so natural to have such a smooth skin, and she just looked younger, and her, there were just no lines like I see when I look in the mirror.
And have you had previous experience with injectables in the past?
No, I haven't.
Oh, so first time for it. Oh, that's great. Very good. Okay, so are you noticing a little bit of the lines and maybe some textural issues that you're
Yes.
wanting to address?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. One of the things we love to do when we start out, and actually I'm going to sit you up a little bit if that's okay. It looks
Okay.
like you're going to take a nap on me.
Okay.
I might put you up one more notch there. Is that
All
better?
right. Yes.
Is to take a look at some before and afters of another patient, just so I can get an idea of what you're looking for, like what you would think would be successful in a treatment. So I'm going to pull out this picture here of a patient, and you can take a look there. This is her before from the front and from the side.
Oh,
And yeah, so she's gorgeous already, right? But she wanted a little bit of enhancement. She was very nervous to do this. She thought, oh my God. Yeah, I know. A lot of our patients are, right? And so she kind of just wanted to start with one. We did tell her she needed more, but she was very nervous and afraid. And so we listened to her and we did just one. But she came back and she said, you know what? I don't really see a difference. But I'm willing to try again. So let's do a couple of more. And so then she added a few more here and basically a little bit more in the cheek area. And then she was like, okay, this is going in the right direction, but you know what, let's just do the plan that you told us to do in the beginning, and we're gonna kind of knock this out and finally get to the end result, and that's what this is here. So then, yeah, from here to here, she added a little lip enhancement, and a little bit in her smile lines and in the lip area. So where do you think she looks her best, her optimal?
Which picture?
Yeah, like which visit made her look?
Oh, well, definitely, there's a change from here to here, but I think this looks beautiful.
Okay, so you're loving that. And then what we can do is kind of even get a close-up of all of those areas so you can see how that looks. You see this nice light reflection on the cheek there. You can see her smile lines are much softer. I know you mentioned something about smile lines. She did have a little bit of a lip enhancement here from here to here with a small age-appropriate amount. And then I think one of the bigger things for her was this she
Under
looked,
eye,
yeah,
yes.
looks a lot more rested there. Yeah.
Which would be something I would be interested in.
Okay. Yeah. Do you feel like you look a little tired? Yeah.
Yes.
That's one of the areas we do when we feel tired. But this total equated about 12 mils. So I want to show you something because a lot of people think that's a lot, but it's just over 2 teaspoons. And I'm not saying we're going to do that for you today, but just to give you an idea of how natural it can look, a lot of people are afraid they're going to look overdone. We have this really interesting cool tool here. Each one of these is a mil or syringe, so it would be like kind of one of these on each side of her face.
Oh.
Very small. If I was to decorate a cake the size of your face and you give me 2 teaspoons of frosting, it's not a whole lot to work with. And so if we put a little bit everywhere, it tends on being a lot more natural. Okay? And another thing I wanted to go over with you too is just kind of how we age, because I think that's an important process that a lot of people are curious about, and sometimes it helps to see the process of aging. So if we take a look at this, this is a daughter and a mother, and we can see the daughter over here, how her fat tabs are really nicely put together, and it holds up the texture of her skin, makes it very smooth and lifted, the lines are left. As we age here, we can see some of those gaps in the face, and so you might even just take your finger and kind of feel, see if you can feel some of those little gaps. And sometimes people complain of these folds, these fat pads can be forward, and that is a result of that pad separating here and creates a little bit more of a mold or contour there. And then even like along the jawline, those fat pads slip down here and then land on the jawline.
Definitely a difference in
Yeah, in the under eye area and hollowing. And we have another view on the wall there if you want to see. And so what we do here at Injectability, instead of like pumping up these fat pads and putting our syringe in there and just psh, 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 we actually kind of like to put the puzzle pieces back together because it just redrifts the whole face back in a better position, looking more natural. Okay. So now that we've kind of looked through a couple of pictures, maybe I'll just show you one more. I love this one too. She's a little bit older, so it helps you, but she also had her under eyes done, and her folds, and even just a little bit more length in her chin, her jawline as well. You can see where it's a little short, and her jowls are a bit more present here, but here it's nice and tight and kind of more contoured, and that was 8 mils. So each patient takes a little bit different for their goals. So what we're going to do now is go over some of your goals and kind of figure out what the prescription would look like for you, and it'll be individualized to you. Okay? Perfect. So I'm going to take a look at your information that you filled out for me. And the first thing I'm going to ask you is to take a look at your images on the screen. And I'll zoom in a little bit so you can look closer. I know you're frowning on one of them, but in the one that you're at rest, what do you think is your best feature? What do you love about yourself? What do you like to play at when you put your makeup on, go to church, get all ready?
I think my eyes.
Yeah, they are really pretty, light colored, really nice shape, and that's the area that you like to play at. The reason we love to start with that, for a couple of reasons. We definitely, want to start on the positive, and, we don't want to tear you down or make you feel worse. But also, if you loved your eyes for many, many years, and then, like, little by little, they get a little smaller, they get a little drippier, a little more creepy, that may affect you more than if you never really looked at your eyes before. So we want to make sure we include eyes in your beauty plan, okay?
That's the one area that I've always had compliments on.
Oh,
big
okay.
green eyes.
Perfect, so that
I don't want them to
easy.
shrink and
You do,
be
yeah,
shriveled green eyes.
you want them to be the great eyes that they always were. Good. So the next question I'm going to ask you is, what area on your face do you think is making you look tired when you look at these images?
I would say there's two. The under eye.
What about the under eyes? Is it kind of the creepy or the dark, or is it the texture?
They're not smooth. They're kind of almost like, there's almost like a visible line underneath our face.
Is it like a crescent shape?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's what we call the under eye hollows or the tear troughs. And then you also
And
said
these
they're
lines here too that are very evident there.
Is it, Jeannie, is it like out here, or is it these kind of right
Both.
here? Okay.
Both.
Okay, so the reason I chose Jeannie is because I'm gonna say things in front of her that I wouldn't necessarily want to say in front of like real patients. She's actually a really good friend of ours too. What I just did was a technique I call "if the shoe fits, wear it." I'm giving her options. With your under eyes, is it the darkness, or is it the creepy, or is it the shape of your hooded lids? And she kind of was thinking, she said, I think it might be they're not smooth and I don't like the shape of, the under eyes. So she kind of said all of that. And then just now she kind of went like this, and then I said, is it these guys, or is it like the frown lines or the folds? And she did exactly what most patients do. It's all of them. So these are tactics that I use with patients, which it sounds kind of tacticky, I guess, but really I'm trying to get them to articulate what it is they actually see, and I'm also suggesting new areas without saying she has those. I'm saying, do you have this, that, or that? And she's going, I think I have them all. So then I'm writing them all down. So she mentioned out here, she mentioned this fold and that fold. So all of those go down so far on my sheet here.
And that's how we train leadership.
Is that how you do it?
Okay, good. Instead of saying.
Exactly, because if I said, oh, you don't like these, you'd say, yeah, I don't like
Yes.
these. And then we never get to these, because it's all putting you into a box. So we need to really explore everything, and that's what I'm hoping to teach them, is that we can really give them a bigger picture of what's happening. So what do you think in these lines around your mouth and the folds and down in here, do you think that's contributing to more of like a less contoured, a little bit saggier look?
It almost creates a frown,
Okay.
right here,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of the saggy
Okay.
under the chin, and that's kind of when you look at people, you can tell their age by
by
what
the
it looks like.
laxity on this.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So if we could kind of lift that back up, one of the things I see in you, and I'm gonna just walk over to the pictures here so you can see how this is used, the pictures, is I see a little line of demarcation right here. You see that?
I do.
And then there's volume on this end and not so much back here.
Right.
So we have room for improvement behind this line, which in medicine we call this a line of ligament. It's basically where your ligament kind of separates two pieces of your face. And it can look really nice, like in models, they have this really nice kind of cut here. And sometimes as we age though, it gets more vertical. And then you really notice some of the hollowing behind it and then the volume in front of it. And I'm gonna go ahead and actually draw that on your face so you can see that in the mirror here. Why don't you sit up just a little bit for me? Good. Okay. So I'm gonna draw out areas of volume on your face. And then smile for me. Good. And that shows a little bit of that line of ligament even better when we highlight it. And you have really good volume here and here. That looks great. Chin down just a little. Good. Smile again. And up to your chin there. So I don't know if you can capture that on camera. I'm going to give her a mirror now. We're going to kind of go back and forth with the pictures and the mirror. This is what I see. I see that you have really good volume here, a little bit of that prolapse of the fat pad that we saw in the picture where you have a tiny bit of that break there, but it's not bad at all. But you do have a little bit of this extra volume in the front of your face, and the back of it is a little bit lacking. You could definitely address some of this hollowing. And smile for me. So you see that break right there. That's that line of ligament. And here's your chin. And then this is actually not bad too. It's pretty good. A lot of people are pretty hollow in what we call this sulcus here. It's not too bad. But there is some volume back here and a little lacking right there. You see that? So if I was to come in and do a little enhancement, I would do it here and back here, and down in here, and right in here. We're going to build this piece back up and get a lot of that frontal weight back in here. I think that would look really nice, and maybe even a little center chin in here. Yeah. Now, some of the things that you can lay back and maybe look at your pictures again, that you marked on your paperwork. I want to make sure we go through it. You mentioned that you're not feeling real smooth, and that you don't feel aesthetically pleasing. When you say smooth, what necessarily is it? Like the texture? Is it some of the fine lines on there? What are we attributing to you not looking smooth?
Kind of both. I have been, using some skin product, and so it's better, but it's nowhere near what I would like for it to be and what I've seen in people who have had a little bit of work done.
Okay.
And, my husband says he's nervous about me doing this because he doesn't want me to look like some models he's seen on TV.
Oh, right.
But I see, I just want some smooth skin that looks a little younger.
Yeah. So the reason we asked about that is we have a new injectable moisturizer, and I love talking to it about it to my kind of your age bracket, peri postmenopausal.
Right.
I'm not assuming anything. I did take a peek at your age, but
I know.
there is an injectable moisturizer that really hydrates, and it actually retrains the cells to create more moisture and more glycerin. Do you know, like if you've ever had a lotion with glycerin, your skin gets kind of really nice and shiny. This actually injects that and makes your body make more of it. So I think that for some of the textural stuff that you're seeing, some of the fine crepes, would be really, really nice. Now, an area that you do seem to have a little bit of dehydration would be a tiny bit above here, more so than I see even around the rest of your face. And you didn't check that you were interested in any textural issues around your lip, so I don't want to, assume, but if that is part of the texture, I think that would be a great area to address as well.
And I do see those lines there, and they bother me. The reason I I'm leery of checking lips.
Yeah.
I had lip cancer, and this
Yeah.
bottom lip is a whole new bottom lip that they
Right.
created, and so I think I don't want to emphasize it,
Right. Well, sometimes scars can actually be treated really nicely.
really, because
Yeah,
there's, if I didn't have lipstick on, you would see a lot of scars right there.
Yeah. Well, let's not take
But
it
I
off the
do
table
like
forever,
this,
because
yeah.
I think what will happen is we'll get kind of the texture looking really good here, and it might be more apparent there that it's a different type of texture than the rest of your face. And one of the things we talk to our patients about all the time is how treating the face as a whole is actually way more natural than spot treating.
Mhm.
So if you've seen people with lip filler where you're like, oh, they've had filler, I can
Right.
tell.
Right,
But probably because they haven't treated the rest of their face to go with that. So it's like out of this decade of what their face is in. But if we treated everything and didn't do your lips, it almost, or not lips, but the lipstick line
right,
around your mouth, it almost would be like, I wonder if she's had her cheeks done. They look so great in comparison to.
right.
So studies actually show us that when we do 4 or more mils in a patient, they rate higher on a natural scale. So think about that. A lot of people think, oh, if I do just 1 or 2, it'll be so natural. Well, it'll be too natural, you probably won't even see much, like we saw in the pictures. So just think about a little bit everywhere as a more natural look. And we can also look at some more pictures to help you feel more comfortable. There's a few in here that I think look really, really natural that are for lipstick lines specifically. Let's see here. Yeah, like this one. I like this one. It's just more textural.
Uh-huh.
I know you
Yeah,
have.
her lips don't look
Yeah.
bigger, it just looks more natural.
Right, it's more of a hydration, kind of like a lip gloss, right? So that we can inject that lip gloss into it. So I think that would be nice for sure. So let me go through the rest of your paperwork and see if we have looked through everything. We know some under eye hollowing. We definitely never treat the under eye hollowing without making sure this part is really nice and cleaned up as well. So we call that like the little hammock for the under eye, so that we put in the support there. And then we notice that hollowing back here, that maybe the jowls are sliding forward and giving you a little bit of laxity in the neck. We did notice if we brought some of the center jawline forward, it might help a little bit more with some of this neck and some of the jowls as well. And then eventually maybe doing some enhancements for the lines around the mouth. I think I got everything. You did check some things in the upper face, which is great, because in the same breath, if we just take care of some of the laxity and volumization on the lower face, and then nothing up here, people might wonder, I wonder how old she is. I'm confused. So I think it would be great to discuss Botox for you. So Botox is FDA approved. It has been for over 20 years. We have images here of how long it lasts. And if you take a look at this guy here, you can see him, and particularly most people are most concerned with the frown, but we also can treat some of the upper forehead lines as well as the crow's feet and lift the lids a little bit. Because if you look where he smiles, see how small his eyes get here? And you had mentioned you want to make sure your eyes stay nice and big, but look at them here, how much bigger they are. So this represents him in a day and after a month, and you can see how nice and rejuvenating that is around the eye. And really at 4 months, he's not anywhere near back to baseline. So we kind of like to think this lasts about 4 months, because most of our pictures show that. And honestly, if he was to go out probably another 2 months, we'd take him back to here. So essentially you could say it lasted 6 months. But we love our patients to come in at 4 months before it actually goes back to here, because you can actually retrain that skin and remodel that. Even the thinnest skin can be remodeled by recurrent use of Botox. You don't want to go too long in between, or that skin sort of does reattach and can get deeper and deeper. In the same breath, if you haven't had it before, it can take up to a year or longer to kind of iron out some of these. So you want to make sure you're really regular with it. But we do think of Botox more like that maintenance drug, like hair and nails, stuff that you just work into your budget 3 times a year. I would plan on for the upper face between $800 and $900 if you want to add any Botox to the lower face, upper the new personal practice. Then you would be adding another several $100, but it can help relax some of the muscles of the face down and keep the jowls and even So, but we'll put that in kind of as 3 times a year budget, around $800 or $900. I'm going to put together a beauty plan for you now, though, for your injectable fillers, your Juvederm. Those products last roughly 2 to 4 years, depending on the amount we put in, your metabolism, and the area that we do it. The only area that usually runs out a little bit quicker is around the mouth, because as women we use it a lot, right? And I know you're a teacher, a superintendent, you do a lot of teaching, so you probably talk just as much as I do all day. So it can metabolize a little bit quicker there.
And that's part of why I'm here. I teach now almost daily on Zoom,
Online, yeah.
and I want, like today I had 42 leadership coaches, and I want them to not look at me and say, well, she's too old to be doing this.
How can I learn from her?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not sad that in this day and age we
I
think
know.
about that stuff, but it actually is a real thing. I have so many patients that say that are, working still, want to contribute, and are afraid people are looking at them and going, she's
Right.
old school. She doesn't know what she's talking about. When really it's the opposite. You've been around, you know how to train these people better than anyone, and so I want to make sure that you have that.
Yeah, I stay relevant with what I'm training on. It's
Right.
how do I look when I'm
Yeah.
training.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we want to make sure that doesn't feel like that for you. So let me go ahead and put together a beauty plan for you. I'm going to have you take a look at some more before and after images while we do that. I'm actually going to give you a little bit of the listing for the jawline book. So you can take a look at that while we do that and see if you like any of those results. And then I'll put together a plan for you.
Marcy, while you're writing that plan, you have a few questions.
Good. Yes, I can write and think at the same time, all at once.
Okay, so how do you address risk and complications associated with filler during their consultation?
I did sort of answer that, but I will again. It's okay. No, I do it at this point. I don't want to model that because that can take another 20 minutes. But at this point, I definitely would go through the consent. I would cover the major risks that are possible, kind of the more relevant ones that happen all the time, and then summarize it with, I like to add in some of the statistics, like what are the percentages of this happening, so I keep relevant on those things and keep looking up on those things. But I think that's really important that we go through that with our patients.
And then do you have any tips for getting your patients to consent for sharing their before and after photos?
I do have those tips. Give me 1 second on that one. I'm just gonna try and add this up in my head. But keep asking me the questions because I'll try and remember to answer all of them. Okay, I'm almost done. I never knew how important math was going to be in my life. But it is. Or okay, so I have a plan for you. I'm going to get, do you still have them here? I have all these paper things. Do you find any good pictures you liked?
Yeah, there were a couple in here. Good. The first one's really nice.
Oh yeah, that jawline. And she kind of has the same little smile line we were
Right.
talking about there, but then these guys right in here, and that looks really nice and smooth after the fact.
And there was one here that looked, I love. That, so smooth. And one of these looked just like my mother. And I thought, well, if she was still alive,
What we could do with her, huh?
yes. This one looks just like my
Oh
mom.
yeah. So she had a combination of treatments. We did some Kybella for her, which is a permanent fat reducer. And we kind of got that debulked for her because that was her big thing.
Yeah,
She had
it's
a lot of
such a
volume.
difference from
Yeah.
there to there.
And then we put in the structure here in her jaw back. Yeah, for sure. Well, good. So let's take a look in the mirror for you. And what I'm thinking is, and you can go ahead and lean forward a little bit and look in the mirror. And I'll kind of be behind her here. Maybe is what we talked about, which is that structure back here, okay? And I like to use a product called Voluma, and that does last between FDA approved for 2 years, but it can last up to 4, especially behind here, if we put in an equal amount. So that submalar region or under the cheek and up here to pull this back. I also would like to do some Volux here and a little bit back in here and a tiny bit right in here. So that's a product called Volux that is, mimics the bone. And you do have a little gap here on your bone. So once we get this lifted, there's not much left. We'll do some right there. And then even a little gap right in here, so that. And then we also want to come in and do the under eye area right in here. And you're plenty full in the front where you don't need to do any volume here. That looks beautiful, but we want some back in here. And then we'll do that under eye area with a product that's FDA approved called Volbella. And that can last well over a year there. And we do that pretty deep down there. And it's really painless, actually. And then lastly, I definitely want to get the Skin Vive on you. I think you're going to love that. That's the injectable moisturizer that we talked about. And so for some of these like fine lines, those are pretty hard to fill, but we can inject some moisturizer in there and smoothen those out so that the texture will be better. Okay, so we're looking at lifting back here, addressing the under eyes, a little bit of lifting here to kind of pick up some of this waddle right in here. And then, of course, we talked about your Botox, about $800 or $900 there. So the quote I'm going to give you is actually more for that long-lasting filler, so a couple of years. And then your Botox is on top of that. So if you were to space this out, like say the girl in the book, where you were like, okay, I just want to do one today. I want to do it for the next 8 months. I'll do one. It would actually cost you a little bit more. You'd be paying $8,075 for what we talked about, and that would include the Skin Vive. But we do work with our manufacturers, and we have instant rebates that really help bring this price down if we would decide to consolidate into one visit. So that actually brings it down with the rebates to $54.75 for all the areas we discussed, and that would include a little lip enhancement too. If you didn't want to do that, you could take off. They're half off after the 4, so you would take off $500 for that if you didn't want to do it. But I do think it would look lovely, and your Skin Vive. So I don't know how you feel about that, but $5,475 for that investment in your face. Do you feel comfortable with that?
That's a lot.
Yeah, I know it is, but it is so important to take care of yourself. And what we said, you work really hard. You are in front of that camera all the time with those students, and it will last you several years. So if you feel comfortable with it, I know it's going to be a good investment for you, but you have to feel comfortable. We can always break it down. We can also even take payments. We have a payment plan that we work through a company called Cherry, where you can have 0 interest and kind of pay it off little by little, but still get the treatment today.
Well, I'd like to do it. Need to save up a little bit.
Okay. Do you have a particular investment that you feel comfortable doing today, so we can at least get some of it kind of rolling so you can see some of those results?
Well, I had actually started saving so that I could come for this visit, but I just made it up to like $500.
Okay. Well, that's a good start.
The first
sure.
visit.
Okay. So with $2,500, let's take a look in the mirror and we'll see what we can do. We can definitely do this upper portion right here. I want to get. We always like to work from top to bottom, so we want to get here. That would be one of the mills right here, and then we would obviously do the other side too, and then we can get those under eyes done too. So basically, this zone right here, we would be able to treat with $2,500. And what we would have to do next time is here, which is kind of pulling up that jowl, and here, which is going to finish that jawline, and a little bit here, as well as the textural stuff around your mouth and the skin, the one that you would help smoothen out the skin and hydrate that area.
How much time between visits?
I would love to see you back in a couple of months, honestly, because what happens is if we do this, you're going to start noticing this gap a little bit more. And I want you to be able to enjoy everything all at once.
Just a little bit.
So if you do feel comfortable, we can start with that $2,500 you saved, and then we'll see you back in a couple of months, or you can even consider doing that payment plan if that works better for you, however you feel comfortable. Okay?
Okay.
Now, just out of fun, let's say that you say, you know what, my jowls are really what bother me most. Can we start here? Because that is a question people always ask. Like, what if she wanted to start here? So ask that question. Like, I really am more concerned about down here.
I'm really concerned about this area more than I am about here.
Yeah.
So you said you'd like to start top to bottom, but
do.
what if you did this
I'll
first?
tell you what will happen. First of all, I'm going to need more product because we have weight coming down, right? We have all of this weight coming down. So if I start here, I'm going to need more product here. And you have the risk of looking a little boxy and full. I'm trying to make you look
No, I
leaner.
don't wanna look boxy.
Yeah,
and full.
we don't want this to get too full in comparison to this. It's all about facial balancing and proportion, so it really makes more sense to start from top to bottom. So we can do this bottom part after we do here, and we can finish up with that and that injectable moisturizer, okay? So then what I would do, because I know we have about 15 minutes left, so we'll wrap this up. Thank you so much, Jean, I really appreciate it. What I would do is I would write down everything we are doing today on a piece of paper. In fact, I have it right here. It looks kind of like a little prescription pad. I'll write down, doing mid-cheek, doing, and under eyes. I would put mid-cheek and under eyes. I would have her sign it, and I would sign it because I need her to agree that we're not doing it all today. And then down here I would write the second segment, jawline, center chin, jawline, and lipstick lines, and the skin bead, and what that cost would look like. And then I would have her sign it, and this would go on her chart. So when she comes back for image review, if she complains about jowls, we have proof that we didn't do the jowls. That's here, that's documented. So that's what I would do. I want to kind of make sure I mention the fact that there really isn't a rebate per se. It's just our verbiage that we use with patients so that they don't think we're discounting. Because I personally don't think we should discount in medicine. I think that opens up the discussion for negotiation. And if I'm prescribing something like any other doctor or prescriber would, patients don't generally negotiate with their doctors. They don't say, I want half of that prescription. So we're giving her a price break by consolidating it because I know it's going to take me less time to do it all at once, but I don't want her to think I'm discounting it. So I use that terminology that it was a rebate from the manufacturer. So it's a little bit tricky, but that's how we do it. So let me answer the question about using photography and then any other questions that came up. We do have a consent form that is layered. I think the problem is most people's consents are like, can you use my pictures or can't you? And there's really no power to the patient. So ours is layered, and it will say that they feel comfortable using their images in medical teaching or publishing is the first layer. The second one is that they are comfortable in the office, so in something that is a hard copy like this, they're comfortable with. The third one is that they're comfortable doing something on social media or website, but only a portion of their face. And there's a line that they can put in. They could put neck only, they could put hands, they could put whatever they want, even just a portion of their skin. And then if they're comfortable with that, then we're going to go ahead and ask them if they're comfortable with us using their whole face. And we sort of ask these verbally and have them sign it later. And if they say no to the first one, we're not going to keep going because that's just pointless. If they say we can't use it in teaching, they're not going to let us use it on social media. So, but we're always very grateful for that. And those are done by the provider. I think that's really important too. If you do it at the front desk, pretty much everyone's going to be a no. But if your provider asks you and shows you on the screen what that looks like, then more likely. And then you redo those yearly. Because usually on day one, it's going to be no. But as they get to know you and they know that this could actually help grow your business, and you can even get more patients interested in this type of confidence, they'll be more likely to say yes later on. What other questions do we get?
How do you address clients who are concerned about the filler not dissolving over time and concerns about it moving to other parts of the face?
So filler migration is definitely a hot topic right now with our seasoned patients who are looking on social media and online, and we kind of talked about that at the top of the hour. I would mention though that is a possibility, and that's usually done because it usually happens with over injections. And I would reassure my patient that At Injectability, we really maintain that with our diagnostic images every single time we look to see if you actually do need filler. If you don't, we're not going to let you do it because that does increase your risk for migration. I've turned away a lot of lips in the last couple of weeks of people who think they're due, but we look at the images and they're not due. So we say no to that. I think that is reasonable to ask for that.
What do you say to patients who only want half of a syringe or insisting on taking the full syringe even when it is too much for them?
Is this in the lips? Because I can't imagine a place where one full syringe would be too much.
Just say it's
Okay, so we're going to pretend it's the lips because there's nowhere else in the face I can think where one would be too much. So if someone does not need their lips done and still wants them, if we, in our clinical judgment, do not think this is the best decision for them, we're not going to do it. And really, I probably would reference migration at that point, that these lips are containers, and anything that we put in them stays there for quite some time, longer than we think. And when we start filling over that, it spills outside of that container. But the half syringe question is more common, and most people need more than a half. So it's our opinion that we really don't do half syringes because I would rather do a half a syringe in the lip and the other half in the corners for lip support than just do a half when they really needed a whole to kind of make that more comprehensive.
How much do you charge per syringe for Voluma, Deluxe, and Triples?
Okay, so good question. So I think I kind of went over my pricing briefly with Jeannie, but we try to make that per syringe price pretty high. So Velux is $1,200, Voluma is $1,000. But in a consult like this, I'm giving her the simple breakdown. I'm saying they're $1,000 a piece because I quoted her 9 mils would be $9,000 if she broke it out in two. And some of those were Velux, so it could have been a little bit more, but some were Volbella. So anyway, I just assume they're all 1,000. And then I tell her the package price, and the package price is 4 mils for $3,000. So you get one for free, and then every mil after that is half off at $500. So it brought it down drastically from $9,000 to actually it was $10,075 with your skin bead to $5,000 and I'm sorry, it was $8,075 to $5,400. Just as a patient, how do you feel about that discount though? Like as a woman, you see $8,000 going down to $4,000 or $5,000.
Huge discount.
Most people would be like, well, I definitely want to put this in one visit because that's a big break in price.
How many syringes was that?
It was 4, 5, 6, 7 syringes, 4 Voluma, 5 Voluma, 1 in the chin, 1 under eyes, the lipstick lines, plus the skin bead. And the skin bead price that I gave her was if she was to come in on their own. So we have a $100 upcharge if it's just skin bead. So I gave her the highest possible high. Like you came in 7 times plus a skin bead on its own. And then I gave her the price, if you were to put it all into one visit, it would bring it down to $54.75, which is that $100 off the skin bead. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, so I'd like to do one more question, and then if we can do one walkthrough through
Yeah.
it.
For sure.
Okay, so can you please talk about if a client comes back for a touch-up, do you charge? If they did the recommended dose and they still have full movement, what do you do? And are you going to see more touch-ups of it?
Okay, great question. So I'm assuming this is having to do with Botox. Just keep up to see if there's any more questions. But another thing I didn't bring up today is something called a treatment expectation agreement. So if you have a patient that comes in that, and Jeannie wasn't like this, but sometimes they like to tell you what they want, right? And sometimes it's a lot less than what you think they need, or sometimes it's a lot more. It's very easy to say, okay, you don't need that, let's pull back a little bit, but it's a lot harder to tell them that they need more than they think they need. So we have what we call a treatment expectation agreement, and basically it goes over the FDA approved doses, and it puts there what they are requesting, and if there's a 20% difference in that amount, we have them sign this additional agreement. And what is on here that I think is crucial and relative to your question is the difference between a dosage adjustment and a touch-up. So a touch-up is when you have an area on your face that is moving, that is very much asymmetrical or awkward, like a soft brow or we missed a spot. We don't charge for touch-ups at all, but we do charge for dosage adjustments. If you just need more drug, then we need to charge you per unit. So that's how we handle that. For fillers, it's also on this agreement. If she did the treatment that I recommended for her, and she came back for her image review and there was just a little bit missing, I more than likely would do that for her complimentary because she did the plan that I recommended. If she didn't do the plan we recommended and came back complaining of a spot, I would pretty much pull out that other form that we had her sign, the prescription form, and I would say, well, that's there because we didn't do that part yet. So that's how we handle those types of situations. They are case by case.
And then post-COVID.
Oh yeah, so that's a hot topic too. I mean, I think there's plenty of research out there that actually does prove that potentially having the COVID virus or vaccine could interfere with your immune system and potentially help have an effect on your duration for toxin. Personally, haven't seen it. We dose pretty high here. Our average patient dose is 96 units. The national average is 36. Yes, so many numbers in my head right now. So we do offer a lot higher dose. I think there's a couple other things going on. Definitely, I think COVID is a real thing. I think they've proven it. But I think there's other things. I think patients kind of heard a rumor that they could potentially get less toxin as they aged, and that isn't true at all. And so my patients, I've been doing this 22 years, they're getting older. And so the fact that they think they can get away with the same dose that they did 22 years ago is pretty interesting. So I like to explain that to them. And, you know, we're adding more areas, and sometimes people are losing weight, and when they're losing weight, which is happening a lot right now in the current times of aesthetics, we're also losing fat and muscle everywhere. And so it stands to reason that we would need to give a little bit more Botox because there's less cushion there to hold that in place. So I think there's a couple things going on. I don't think we can throw it all into the COVID bucket. One other thing I just wanted to show really quick before we move out of the room, and you can check to see if there's any other questions, but is sometimes I get patients who have been with me for a really long time. They complain that they're still getting older. Like, I just spend all this money here, and I feel like I'm still looking old. And I'll love to show them. And Jeannie, you haven't been in too often, but you do come in fairly regularly. I like to show them these pictures. This is her 14 years ago on the left to today. So really, her lipstick lines aren't, yeah, that's you. Your lipstick lines aren't that much more prominent. You have a little more notability of that ligament break there, but it's not that different, honestly. I'll show you here. This is 14 years ago. And so Jeannie comes in once a year, right, Jeannie? And gets $2,500. That's her budget every year. She saves every year, and she comes every year, and she says, whatever you can do for $2,500, and I do it. But so it's not like she's spending a ton every year, but I love to show this to patients because that's 14 years ago on the left. And your marionettes look better, your folds look better, the position of your cheek looks better. Your jowls are about the same, honestly. You do have a little more of the malar hollow that we mentioned right here. Right there. But everything else is probably, you've done pretty good, honestly, in the last 14 years. So if you're not using these images in your consults, not just on the first day, sorry, I'm making you work today, but every visit, reviewing their images, looking where their progress is, looking at that filler from the last time, looking at their Botox, how their skin texture is different from that, you're missing the boat. And I know this takes time and energy to get standardized photography like this, but we sell visual results. We're in a visual field, and we sell results. So if you're not really doing a good job diagnostically using these images, I think you're really missing an opportunity for your patients. Yeah, there are a few articles that do prove that, so it's not going to hurt your patients to add in zinc. You can get them on Amazon. Most of us are a little deficient anyway there, so you could definitely add zinc to your possible ways to enhance the duration of Botox. So the software is the same photography system that we'll show you in a minute. We'll walk you through if those of you missed it in the beginning. And so this system's called Photo Finder, and it links to the iPads, and the iPads link to the TV. So that's the software. It's different from our EMR system, so totally different, which is fine because we use a Surface Pro for that and an iPad for the photos. But this is essentially a part of their documentation. This is a major part of their chart. And so when they walk in the room the first day or every day they come back, their pictures are up on the wall already. And so they're like, oh, there's me. Oh, yeah. Oh, I love what you did to my neck last time. That looks great. Or a new patient, they might be coming for Botox here, and they see those pictures from front and side. And they might, almost every time, well, I came for this, but gosh, I had no idea my neck looked like that, or I had no idea, because people don't look at themselves from the side. That's the social view. That's the candid view. It's not. The one you look at in the mirror is always from the front, and it's always tilted up, and it's perfectly, positioned. But these are more candid, and they're much more exploratory, and the patients get to grips with how they're aging. I know they also really wanted you to view the room, so if you can kind of show some of the posters up here. Because we also use those for teaching with the patients, some of the aging pictures here. These are all the mother-daughters. We have those. We downloaded those from the brand box. I would just encourage you guys to go on brand box and really have fun there, because you can download a lot of things. And then I've just taken this image that I got from brand box, and I sent it to a company called Vistaprint, and they can make these little Klingons for the wall. They're like big stickers. I actually made that one, but these I got from brand box up here, and then you zoomed in on that mother-daughter fat pad there. That's a big one. We use that in teaching all the time. So I think if you have those at the ready, you're going to be more likely to use them. So we'll go through real quick and do another walkthrough of the waiting room and the photo room, and then we'll go from there. Okay. So I think this was the one that most people were questioning. They wanted to see. This is the photography room or the imaging room. We'll take the patients in here, and put their pictures up here, and then when we do the follow-ups, it'll pull up the ghost image and get it all standardized here. And then it links to the TVs, which links